Hey team, welcome to this training where we're going to go ahead and talk about email providers and the foundations of business email explained. So just a quick reminder, these are talking about your brand name assets. This has nothing to do with your corporate name assets. Those are two separate things. So I just want to go ahead and remind you of that once again. Those are two separate things. We're going to go ahead and walk you through the actual legal entity and legal corporation side of things in an upcoming training. But in this training section, we are going to be talking about your business email, okay, your professional email, because you do not want to be using your personal email to be talking or speaking with clients. It's going to be a mess. You're going to have your grandma emailing you. You're going to have your friends and family emailing you. And then you also got your clients mixed in there. You do not want to be doing that. So the next piece of these foundations is setting up your professional email. The other reason why this is going to be important is because that way you can actually show yourself as a professional. So especially when you go ahead and get signed up for your payment processor and some of these other aspects of your business that they're going to actually be vetting you to see if you are a professional organization or not, it does help to have some of these assets in place. Now, just to be clear, because some people may not know what a professional email actually is, a professional email is one that does not end in things like hotmail.com, gmail.com, yahoo.com, apple.com, appleid.com, whatever. All of those are usually email addresses that are created for consumers. Those are personal email addresses, okay? These are personal accounts, not professional accounts, okay? So if you look at any established business, they have their email on their own domain name, okay? So for example, when we were running NutriFit Wellness, which was our health and wellness practice, our coaching business, we used to have an email called support@nutrifitwellness.com. Now, you'll notice that that does not say supportnutrifitwellness@gmail.com, right? It does not say that. The reason is because this is a professional email that is put on our individual domain name, okay? Now, in order to register an email address on your domain name, you are going to have a professional email provider. And that's exactly what I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about in this quick training right now, which is, hey, what are professional email providers, right? How does all of this entire world of business email providers actually work? I'm going to walk you through that very carefully here, so that way you have a macro strategic understanding. And then that way, once you actually get into the micro tactical step-by-step, and then you actually understand the options that are available for your business email, it's going to be very easy because you understand exactly what it is that you are doing and why you are doing it. So let's go ahead and talk about that right now. A professional email provider is a company that offers the service for being able to connect your domain to their email services, so that way you can actually go ahead and create a professional email like support@nutrifitwellness.com or support@whatever domain name.com. And so there are many different companies out there that act as email service providers that you can connect your domain to. However, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through two of the biggest providers for those professional email providers, and those are Google Workspace, okay, or Microsoft 365 Business, also known as Outlook. Okay, so example, our domain is remotewellness.com, and that for us, we've connected that to Google Workspace because we love the Google ecosystem. We think that it's probably light years ahead of many of the other competitors. Okay, and so basically, we're going to go ahead and instead of using Gmail, it's going to actually have that unique service provider hooked up to our domain. Okay, so by using the email provider Google Workspace, you can also use Google's other products from a professional standpoint. So normally you would use YouTube and Gmail and Google Docs and all of that stuff. You would use that through your personal @gmail.com account. However, when you have a professional email, you get Google Drive and all of those other apps and services from Google, but you get them through your professional email. Now, that might sound a little bit confusing for some of you, so let me go ahead and walk you through this so you can understand this a little bit better, okay? Is that companies like Microsoft and Google, they have many different products that they offer. And the reason again, why I'm explaining to you is this because a lot of people, especially those who are health and wellness coaches, health and fitness coaches, obviously our expertise, our specialization is with the physical world, right? Physical body, we talk about the physical plane. And so having this context of how all of this tech stuff comes together is going to be extremely beneficial for you and your career as an entrepreneur and a business owner. So let's go ahead and talk about that right now. So all of these companies, they have different products, right? So just imagine like when you go and purchase any product from Walmart or anything like that, there's many different products that might be within that brand. And so these companies, they have a personal email product, okay? So in the case of Microsoft, they have normal Outlook, right? And then Google has Gmail, Yahoo has Yahoo Mail, right? And then they also have a different suite of products, which is the Office tools, okay? So for example, Microsoft has Microsoft Office, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, or Microsoft OneNote. All of that is under the suite of Microsoft Office, okay? And then Google also has their suite of Office tools, right? So they have Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, right? They got Google Calendar. All of that is a part of their Office tools. Now, on top of that, sometimes they also have a domain registrar, right? So for example, Google used to have another product suite that was a domain registrar. This actually got bought by Squarespace, so it no longer actually exists. And now both Google and Microsoft do not have a domain name registrar. So that's why GoDaddy, Cloudflare, right? So these are not purchased or owned by Google or Microsoft. Google and Microsoft do not have a domain name registrar product, right? And then there are also professional email provider product suites. And that is exactly what we're talking about inside of this training section, which is the Microsoft 365 Business, which is if you were going to say, you know what, I'm going to connect my domain name to the email provider for Microsoft, then you would be going with Outlook and Microsoft 365. And if you're going to be connecting it with Google, then you would be going with Google Workspace. Okay, so each of these different levels is a different suite of products within the entire ecosystem. And now one of the things that you'll notice is that Google is one of the few companies that really has products and services across as many of the service categories that you'll see. Now, again, remember the domain name registrar got bought out. However, Google does have a very wide range of these services, unlike some of these other providers that are out there. And so this is why we recommend Google for as much of everything that is possible to do, because that way it's connected to everything and it's extremely easy to use. And that way we're all connected inside of that ecosystem. Okay, so everything is in the cloud, in Google's cloud. So that means that there's nothing for us to have to deal with on the actual physical computer, right? So unlike 10 or 15 years ago, if your computer got lost or stolen or broke, what ends up happening is that, hey, you lost all of your files, right? But now everything is hooked up to Google Drive. Everything is in the cloud. And so that way, all your documents, all your slides, all your PDFs, everything is in the cloud. So that way you can access it from any computer in the world because of the fact that it is on Google Drive. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why when we get to the tactical section of this, we're going to walk you through how to actually set up a Google Workspace professional email. We'll walk you through what are the costs of that if you decide to go with that option. Or we're also going to show you what the free option looks like as well. Now, for some of you who might have corporate jobs, you might be familiar with Microsoft Outlook. And the reason for that being is because Microsoft really is great for companies that are enterprise companies, right? Especially for those companies who are like, you know what, we're going to be super tight on our, on the old school way of doing things. That's the reason why a lot of times they use Microsoft, because Google is very much kind of like on the cutting edge. And so especially for startups, you will see they primarily do use Google. It's a lot more flexible. It's a lot more nimble. But Microsoft, because they've been the 8,000-pound gorilla in this space for a long time, you'll see a lot of old school, bureaucratic, large enterprise companies going with Microsoft. But again, we're going to be going ahead and recommending Google for you and walking you through that as well. But ultimately, that is what we would do. Ultimately, you can do whatever the heck you want to do, because guess what? It is your business and you can do what you feel like doing. Okay, so we're just here to go ahead and support you on that journey. Now, the other question that sometimes we get is, hey, why is having a professional email important in the long term? Okay, now the reasons why it's important in the long term is because that way you can actually separate your personal email communication from your professional email communication. It also allows you to be able to, as you expand and grow your business, you can have team members and employees. You can actually go ahead and create individual emails for them as well, okay? It also allows you to help be more organized and focused, because then your personal files are separate from your business files. All of this is so important. And in the beginning, it doesn't sound like it's so important, but trust me, later on, when you realize, oh man, I can't actually split anything up, right? It's sitting in my Gmail inbox, which is my personal email. Now, guess what? You can't switch it. You can't move it over, right? And so it's so much better to do from the very beginning. So that way it's simplified and clean, okay? Now, we're going to have different options for this, so that way you can kind of see how this works. But the point being is that there can only ever be one support@gmail.com, but there can be an unlimited number of support at insert your domain name here.com, right? So our company can have a support email address, your company can have a support email address, and that's why it makes it extremely very important, okay? Now, but, okay? The keyword here is long term, because every single one of you guys as business owners, when you're starting out, is going to have a different need when you are starting out. And so in the beginning, it may actually make sense for some of you to have everything combined for free inside of your personal email, because of the fact that you're not planning on getting a bunch of clients XYZ, right? However, for some of you, that might actually not be the best approach. And so that's why once we actually get into some of the different options in the next training, we're going to walk you through exactly what those options are, so that way you can be familiar with them and make the best decision for your specific needs. Okay. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this was the overview understanding of business email providers explained. So now you understand exactly what a business email provider is. The recommended one that we're going to be going with is going to be Google Workspaces. And then we're going to go ahead and get in the next training with some of the different options when it comes to your professional business email. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you in the next training. All right, welcome back. Inside of this training section, we are going to be going over the two options for you to go ahead and get your professional business email set up. Now, what's going to happen here is that this specific training section that you are in right now, we're going to go ahead and break down exactly what those two options are. And then in the next immediate training sections, there's going to be the actual options, right? Option 1 and option 2. But first you have to go through this training section to know, hey, which option are you actually going to choose? So when it comes to having a professional business email address, there is not going to be a one size fits all answer. Why? Because here's the thing, every new business owner, every single one of you who is going through this program is going to want to move at a different speed, right? So for some new business owners, they're hungry, they're ready to go, they maybe already have some clients on the side, or they're ready to go ahead and start getting clients into their business ASAP, as soon as possible, okay? And so for those people, though, for those new business owners, the option for them to go ahead and get set up with their professional business email is going to be different, while other business owners are more, you know what, they're in it for the learning right now. They're kind of thinking of doing this on the side, they're kind of going a lot slower, and they're taking their time, right? And so this is why there's going to be a difference between who you are and what your position is. And so in an effort to go ahead and make this more universal, so that way it's not just cookie cutter, it's something that is specific to each and every single person's situation, that is where there's going to be options, okay? And so that's exactly what we're going to go ahead and walk you through right now, which are the two main options, so that way you can know how to go ahead and get your professional email set up depending on your own trajectory, okay? So let me explain to you both of these options right now. Option number 1 is for you to go ahead and get a professional business email address on your own domain name, okay? So that's going to be, for example, like support or help or team at, let's say, for example, in this case, nutrifitwellness.com, right? So what you're seeing here is that this email address, right? Whenever you see like a professional, you're calling, a big company or something, or emailing a big company, they have their email on their own domain, okay? So that is option number 1, which is at yourowndomain.com. And then option number 2 is going to be to go ahead and actually use an at gmail.com. Now this is going to be different because the domain is just going to be at gmail.com. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have over here, it's going to be like NutriFit Wellness, Body Forge, support, team NutriFit Wellness at gmail.com, whatever. Okay. So what you're going to see is that there is a very big difference between these two options. Now let me go ahead and explain a little bit more here. Okay. So in this first option over here, in this option, you're signing up for a proper business email address that is on your your domain name, and you have a completely separate, what is known as a Google Workspace account, okay? Now, Google Workspace is what is used in order to go ahead and set up this domain name, okay? Now, don't worry, you don't have to know about it. We're going to walk you through it step by step, but I'm just kind of planting those seeds right now, okay? So what that's going to do is that when you have your @domainname.com, it's going to have everything located in that for your business. And so this option over here means that you have a business email and a business account from the start, okay? Now, the pros of this is that you have all of it set up right now from the beginning, so that way you don't have to worry about it in the future. But the cons of this is that it does actually have a cost. And this cost is going to be, for a Google Workspace account, in order to host all of those for your domain name, it's going to be $6 per month. Now, this $6 per month is different than your, $12 per year domain name cost. Right now, it might not be $12 per year depending on the domain registrar. It might be like, $10 per year. I think the recommendation that we've made is to use Cloudflare. I think Cloudflare is like $10 a year or something like that, right? That's different. That's your domain registration, okay? What we're talking about over here is hosting your business email. So there's going to be a cost to that, right? And the starter plan for Google Workspace starts at $6 per month. And that does also mean that there is a little bit more of an initial setup here for option number 1, okay? Then option number 2, which we've already gone ahead and said, is going to be the @gmail.com. And what you're doing here is normally @gmail.com email addresses, they're used for personal communication, right? They're typically not used for business communication. However, if you are just starting out right now, okay, and you're like, you know what, I don't want to have to pay the $6 per month, and you're kind of just taking your time, and you're okay with having an @gmail.com in the start, right? So you can start with this option. You can just make a new @gmail.com, right? Now, we're not talking about using your personal email address, right? So let's say, for example, your name is John Doe, you have johndoe@gmail.com. No. We're not talking about that. We're talking about creating a whole new @gmail.com email address for usage of business. Okay, now the pros of this is that it is free. It is literally super simple to set up because you just go ahead and create a new Gmail account, super easy to do. But the cons is that later on, when we talk about sending business emails in an upcoming training down the road, okay, when we talk about that, there is going to be some additional setup there, right? So over here, there's additional setup in the beginning, and then in option 2, there's additional setup later on, right? So they kind of cancel each other out, but the only difference is that this one is going to be, option 2 is going to be free, and then option 1 is going to have that cost associated with it. Now, after hearing that, a student might ask, is like, hey, okay, well, one option is free. Why would anyone actually pay? Now, let me explain to you why somebody would actually pay for the Google Workspace for the option number 1, right? Because what's going to happen is that in a later training, we're going to go ahead and help you set up something called email deliverability. Okay, now that's a fancy way to say, do your emails get delivered into the inbox of the person that you are sending them to, or do they actually land in spam, right? So obviously, in your email address, only a certain number of emails make it to your priority tab, and then there's some filtration that's going on for that to be filtered into either spam or promotions or something like that, right? So when you send an email to somebody who's using an @Gmail and @Yahoo and Hotmail, right? Like, let's say you're going to email a client, you're going to email a lead, you're going to email a prospect. What happens is that Google, Yahoo, Hotmail, these are the email providers that we've explained in a earlier training section. What they're doing is they're determining, hey, should this land in the inbox or should this land in spam? And so there are rules that Google and Yahoo and Hotmail know to say, hey, these are the good guys and these are the bad guys, right? And so yes, option number 2 is going to be easier right now, and it is going to be free for you right now. But what's going to happen is that, like I said, in an additional training in the future, what's going to happen is we're going to walk you through a little bit, not a lot, but additional setup. So that way you can actually set up something called email routing and forwarding. So that way you can kind of fake it as if you have an @domain.com. Why? Because the email providers do not actually like it when somebody sends out business emails from an @gmail.com. And so even though option number 2 is an @gmail.com, what we're going to have to walk you through is we're going to have to walk you through how to set up this setup called email routing and forwarding later on. And so that's the reason why a lot of people are like, you know what? I might just pay the $6 per month extra. So that way I can go ahead and just have peace of mind that it's going to be set up from the get-go. But again, it just depends on your situation. If you're going to have money coming in, if you're going to be able to work with clients immediately, then you can justify the cost. But if you're like, you know what, I don't see myself, I'm just learning right now, I don't see myself getting paying clients or, a lot of paying clients or maybe high paying clients for a while, then in that case, you might just decide to continue with option number 2 and just go with the @gmail.com. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why we are even offering the @gmail.com option. Even though later on there is going to be more setup, right? The reason why we're actually offering the free option is because our philosophy when starting out in business is that we want to make sure that you stay as lean as possible and while still being practical, right? So we call this wisdom thinking. It's not binary black or white thinking. It's not, hey, do I overspend for no reason? Or is it, hey, do I got to nickel and dime everything? It's about the nuance. It's about the detail. It's about the balance between understanding the context, understanding the situation, understanding, hey, where are you at in this journey? It's not about, hey, yes, make sure you overspend and buy everything. No, it's not about, hey, yes, let me make sure I nickel and dime everything. No, it's about understanding where to actually spend the money. Where is it going to be more bang for your buck? Where is the return on investment going to be, right? And so that's exactly why Jeff Bezos, who is the founder of Amazon, when he was starting out, he knew that spending money on a sign or a desk or something like that was going to be pointless, right? And so he knew that it wasn't going to be actually offer any real world value. This is a picture of his original desk. You see he has a sign that's kind of just spray painted on there, and he has his desk that is made out of a door, right? And so he knew that, hey, I'm not going to be black and white thinking. It's not about, hey, do I spend the money and spend money on everything, right? Because I'm going to need everything. And it's not, hey, do I nickel and dime everything and not spend money on anything? It's a matter of understanding, hey, what is going to be valuable based off of your situation? And that's exactly what we're empowering you to learn how to do, because business is a game of thinking, and you have to be able to understand the context, and you have to be able to know, hey, what is going to be applicable for me in my situation? This is not about being a remote control, blindly following, being spoon-fed. You got to be able to understand what is your situation, what's going to be the best situation for you. So in an upcoming training, we are going to be walking you through, hey, what are the foundational softwares that you are going to need in order to start and grow your business, right? We talk about having a website builder and hosting, Linktree, invoicing software, client agreement, business phone calling, text messaging, calendar software, email marketing, automation, review software, sales funnel, CRM software, right? That's just a starter business software. Now, here's the thing. Don't get scared by this entire, $465 per month. That's the reason why we're going to go ahead and make this literally seamless and easy for you, so that way it is actually cost efficient. Because remember, what is our philosophy? I'm going to go ahead and scroll back up here so you can go ahead and see this, is that our philosophy is that when starting out in business, you want to try and stay as lean as possible while still being practical, right? And so we're going to walk you through so that way it doesn't cost you $400 per month plus, right? But the key here is that you want to understand, hey, this is not about overspending for no reason where you're spending $400 plus per month every single month. And this is not about nickel and diming. You're like, hey, I need a website, but I don't want to spend money. I need a this and I don't want to spend money. I need a that and I don't want to spend money. No, you don't want to do that either. And so the goal of this entire training is to open your eyes to that from the very beginning as we're setting up the business foundations for your business is, hey, guess what? You're going to have to sit here and actually think about this. Is like, hey, we're putting the decision in your hands to decide. Is the $6 per month worth it for you right now? Or is that just going to be overspending for no reason, right? Or are you maybe in here where it's like, you know what, it is worth for me to spend it because I have a justifiable reason? Or are you saying, hey, you know what, I do have a justifiable reason, but I'm going to nickel and dime and I'm going to purposefully not spend the money, right? So you got to think about where you're at and think through these options, or whether or not you're okay with a little bit of extra setup later on, because we went ahead and talked about that as well. So we're just fully educating you right now that if you decided to go with the $6 @domain.com setup, then that way you will not have to do that setup later on because you have a little bit more setup right now. But keep in mind that $6 per month is not going to be your only business expense, okay? So in upcoming training, we're going to walk you through some of the foundational softwares that you're going to need in order to get your business started and growing. But we're just going ahead and making you fully aware of what is upcoming. Okay, cool. So with that being said, let's go ahead and just decide, hey, which option do you want to take? It's going to depend on your own situation. We're just equipping you with the understanding of, hey, cool, this is going to be $6 per month, requires a little bit of extra setup right now, but I got it, I'm good to go. Versus option number 2 is going to be free, very, very easy to go ahead and set up right now, but there's going to be more setup later on. So again, completely up to you to decide which option you want to go with. I'm going to go ahead and say this one last time in case anybody wasn't listening. If you are okay with tacking on a $6 a month subscription right now, knowing that you will also probably have an additional $50 to $150 per month of other business expenses in the future, if you are okay with that, then you can go ahead and go with the @domainname.com option. But if you'd rather go with the free option for now, knowing that you'll probably have to do a little bit of extra work with email forwarding in the upcoming training section, then you can go with the @gmail.com option. Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? I'm just making it crystal clear in case anybody had any further questions about that. Okay, so now what is going to happen next? In the next immediate training sections, what we are now going to go ahead and do is we're going to walk you through the actual setup process for each of these two options. Okay, so right after this training section, there's going to be an option number 1 training section is going to walk you through how to do that. And then there's going to be an option number 2 training section that's going to walk you through that. Now, you do not go through both. Let me make this clear. You only go through the option that you are going to pick. So let's say, for example, right now you decide I'm going to go ahead and proceed with option number 1. You therefore only then go through the option number 1 training section, right? If you decide you're going to go through option number 2, you only go through the option number 2 training section. Okay, now let me go ahead and remind you here, okay? What happens is that we have training sections. And so what's happening is that this right now is the initial training section of the business email training, okay? So right now you're in this training section. Right after this is going to be another training section that's going to walk you through either option 1 or option 2, depending on what it is that you're going to be following. So just make sure that you only go through the training section that matches the decision that you have made inside of this training section around whether you're going to do option 1 or option 2. You do not do both of them. I hope that is crystal clear. Okay, so with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we walked you through option 1 and option 2, some of the things that you got to think through, as well as understanding wisdom thinking, so that way you're not just thinking in black and white binary around, hey, I'm not going to spend money or I am going to spend money. You got to figure out where you fall in that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the skill of the business owners, being able to think through and problem solve and not just be spoon-fed and just have a cookie cutter remote control approach. You're going to learn throughout this entire program how to think, and that is the goal of this. We're going ahead and planting those seeds as we go along. So right after this, go ahead and proceed with either option 1 or option 2, depending on which one's going to be better for you, and go ahead and execute on the tactical action steps for that so you can get your professional business email address set up. With that being said, we will catch you in that next training section. All right, welcome to this training section that we're going to be talking about how to go ahead and get set up with option number 1, which is setting up your @domain.com professional email address. So this is your branded email address that's going to be on your own domain. So again, I want to go ahead and make sure that if you are going through this training, that means that you have decided to go ahead and proceed with option number 1, and you do acknowledge and you do understand that that is going to cost $6 a month, and you do understand that there is going to be slightly a little bit more initial setup. However, the pro of this, and as you go through the end of this training section, what's going to happen is that you're going to have everything set up so you never have to worry about it ever again. And it's an official email address that is for your business. It is official inbox. It's also going to come up with all of the additional business suite of tools that are going to allow you to make sure that you are rocking and rolling. The other benefit of this is that later on, we are going to be talking about email deliverability inside of a training that is going to be up and coming. But the beautiful thing about this is that once you proceed with this option number 1, you are not going to have to worry about any of that setup in the future, because what's going to happen is that when you send business emails, because you already have a business email domain @domain.com, it is going to be sent via your business email. So that way it's straightforward, it's very easy. And then also when your prospects, your clients, whoever actually emails your inbox, is going to go directly into your business email inbox. So there's no additional setup that's going to be required outside of what it is that we're going to be doing inside of this training section. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into it, the step-by-step of creating your @domain.com email. So what you're going to go ahead and do is you are going to go ahead and go over to workspace.google.com. Now, what you can do is you can go ahead and type that in over here if you would like. So you can go to workspace.google.com. Okay, so you can go ahead and type it in over there, or you can just go over to Google and type in Workspace Google, right? And then show up like that. So Google Workspace will show up that way as well. So either or is completely fine. And then once you go ahead and get over to here, Google Workspace, and let me go ahead and explain this for just a second here. Okay, so Google Workspace is the business product of the Gmail Google Suite, right? So normally you and I, we are used to the normal Gmail, right? So you sign up for a Gmail account, and then Gmail is going to come with automatically, that means you have a Google account. Okay, and that Google account is then going to give you access to Google Docs, Google Sheets, all of that kind of stuff, right? However, all of this is on the personal side of things, okay? And so Google Workspace, this is when you have the same tools, but this time it's going to be on the business side of things. Okay, so I hope that is clear. If you have any questions about that, make sure you do ask in the community. But once you get over here, all you're going to go ahead and do is you're going to just go ahead and click on get started. And then once you get over here to get started, you'll see that it's a very professional. You'll see it kind of gives you an idea here is to work remotely with confidence, do more with Google Workspace, custom email with your domain, cloud-based, no installation needed, advanced security and admin features. So again, all of this is specific to the product, which is Google Workspace. That is a business product, right? So if I come over here, let's say we go Body Forge Wellness, okay? And then in this case over here, I'm just going to put just me, okay? But let's say, for example, I had 2 or 9, it doesn't, really matter there. Then I can go next. Then what's going to be your contact information, right? So this is going to be, let's say, for example, my name is John Doe, right? Of course, you're going to put your own name there. And then let's say, for example, that my email address, and I'm just going to go ahead and put a test email address here, is going to be directoroftrade@gmail.com. Again, that's just a demo email. So I'm just going to go ahead and put something there. Now, does your business have a domain? Okay. So in this case, if you're going through this training, that means that you already would have purchased the domain in a previous training. If you haven't done that, why the heck are you going through everything out of order? Because this entire program was meant to be done in order. So please follow these steps one by one. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do is, do you have a domain name? Yes, I do. You're going to enter in your domain name. Now, in this case, again, I am going to go ahead and use a test demo domain name here. Obviously, you're going to be putting in your domain, and hopefully you've gone ahead and purchased that through Cloudflare according to our recommendation, because that's going to be so much easier for you because you have the entire system set up. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and put in our test domain here. Okay, so in your case, you're going to put your domain, and then from there, it's going to go ahead and say use this domain. Yes, this is the domain that I want to go ahead and get set up. Email sent to domain won't be affected until you set this account. Okay, beautiful. Then I'm going to go ahead and click next, and then it's going to go ahead and say, hey, how are you going to sign in? And so right over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and this is where you're now going to create what your actual name is going to be for your domain. So let's say, for example, we're going to do, and the one that we would recommend, that's probably the most universal, is just support, right? So you do support at bodyforgefitness.com, support at theyasin.com, support at nutrifitwellness.com, support at companydomain.com, right? That's the whole point of why we are setting up at domain.com email, right? And then of course, right over here, you're going to go ahead and enter in your password. So whatever password you're going to go ahead and use, you're going to go ahead and put that right over there. And then once you have that in there, you are going to go ahead and go through the CAPTCHA, which is going to be, I'm not a robot, agree and continue. Okay. And then from there, it's going to go ahead and load up to the next page. And you'll see once it goes ahead and shows up here, it's going to say, cool, sign in to your admin console over here, right? So we're going to go ahead and enter in. So it's support at whatever your domain is there. You're going to go to next. And then you're going to go over here to entering in your password, whatever your password was. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and enter my password there. Go ahead and click on next from there. And then it's going to go ahead and ask for you to go ahead and actually verify your phone number. So give me a second here. I'm just going to go ahead and skip this. But in your case, you're not going to skip this, okay? Because I don't want to have to show some, because you're going to put a valid phone number here. So you're going to go ahead and enter in your phone number, and you're going to get an SMS code, and you're going to go ahead and enter in that code that gets sent over to your phone number. Okay, so whatever that number is going to be, whatever code they verified over to you, they do this so that way they make sure that you're not a robot. You're not just, people go ahead and create unlimited numbers of accounts. So that way it actually verifies that you are a human being. So then you go ahead and click on verify from there. It's going to have some sort of, create new account. Cool. I understand. No issues there. And then once this goes ahead and loads, what's going to do is going to walk you through an onboarding process. Now, this is very important. This right here says this is Business Plus. And what it's doing here is kind of funny because this is not the $6 a month that we actually want. What they're doing is they're actually upselling you to the higher version of this. So we're actually going to walk you through in just a second how to downgrade to the $6 a month. So that way you're not having to pay $21 per month. So for right now, we are going to go ahead and proceed with 14 days. And then once we actually get into the admin console, we'll go ahead and show you how to go ahead and actually make this the starter plan. So that way it's cheaper for you. So right now we're going to go ahead and continue, try free for 14 days. And then right over here, you're going to see that it is going to go ahead and ask you to enter in your information, right? Your billing information is going to go all in here. Now I want to go ahead and clarify, this is for Business Plus, but it's going to be 14 days at no charge. Okay. Now that's $21. Now, if you follow our instructions, you're going to proceed with this, but then before your 14 days are up, we're going to go ahead in just a second. Once we actually get in, I'll walk you through how to downgrade. So that way you don't have any issues with having to pay $21. You can pay $6 a month instead. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, this is the advanced tips. These are the pro tips. And the reason why you're a part of this program, the reason why we're showing you the system and the strategy is because these are things that new business owners, these are things that when we first started, We were paying $21 a month for a long time because Google upsold us and we didn't even know there was a different plan. And so that's the reason why, as you go through this program and you're getting the system and the strategy, you're able to go ahead and literally shortcut your way to understanding how a proper business is supposed to run, because we're going ahead and giving you the system and the strategy and the pro tips on how all of this actually functions together. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do from here is I'm going to go ahead and fill this information out, right? Because this is a demo account. They're not going to allow us to proceed unless I go ahead and fill this out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and on your side, you want to pause this and you want to go ahead and follow through and you want to actually fill all of this information, right? Your name, your address, right? All of that you want to fill in. Your primary contact over here, you can go ahead and fill that out. And then your payment method, again, don't worry, it's not going to charge you $21 because you have that 14-day trial right now. And then I will see you on the next screen. So let's go ahead and cut over to that now. So once you've gone ahead and hit agree and continue, it is going to go ahead and take you over to the review and checkout page. It's going to load for a second. And then just like that, it's going to get you into the actual admin console that is going to be for your @domain Google workspace. Okay, so it's going to say, we're glad you're here. Okay, very good. So it's going to walk you through some onboarding. And the very first thing it's going to do is going to walk you through how to actually verify ownership of your domain. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and click on next. It's going to go ahead and say, hey, do you want to create any additional accounts for your team members? And it's going to go ahead and activate Gmail for that right there. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through this step by step. We're going to do this together so that way you can make sure that you do not get stuck with this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click on protect. And it's going to say, cool, I'm ready to go ahead and protect my domain. And then once you go ahead and do that, it's going to say, cool, what's going to happen is we're going to go ahead and have you log into your Cloudflare account. And it's going to go ahead and do all of that setup on your behalf automatically. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click on sign in to verify. It's then going to go ahead and pop in. And right over here, it's going to ask you to go ahead and log in to your Cloudflare account. So give me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to go ahead and hit login. So once you go ahead and hit login, it's going to go ahead and walk you through that, right? It's going to say, cool, you went ahead and logged in. It's going to ask for authorization in order to go ahead and do and change some of the DNS settings. So again, you don't have to know too much about DNS settings. We do our best here when we're trying to make this system and this strategy for you to go ahead and make it so that way it's as easy as possible for you. And that's why when we set this system up, we want to make sure for you as the new business owner, you're not getting overwhelmed with this. That's the reason why when we make our choices of how we create these trainings, we want to make sure that whatever the process we walk you through doesn't overwhelm you or doesn't overcomplicate. And that's one of the things here that we're seeing. And the reason why we've methodically chosen this process for you. So that way you don't have to mess with the DNS settings yourself. All you got to do is authorize it for Cloudflare. And then it's going to go ahead and Google's going to do all the work for you, right? So you go ahead and click on authorize. And then once you go ahead and do that, it is going to go ahead and verify your domain with Cloudflare all in the background. Now, sometimes this does take a little while. Okay, so you can see on here, it says you can close this page and return later, like to say 5 minutes left is what it's saying. So what you can do is you can actually go ahead and just leave the computer open if you want. You can just go ahead and walk around, go get some steps in. And then when you come back, hopefully the domain should be verified by then. Now on that previous screen, all I did was I did go ahead and hit that X at the top left. So you did see that there was an X right over here with that blue screen. All I did was I hit that X that was right there. And then it did take me over here. So it looks like the domain was protected, even though it did say that it had 5 minutes left. It looks like it was already good. So all you had to do was hit the X. You could go ahead and close out that screen with the X that was there on the left side. From there, it's going to say, hey, do you want to create any more users, right? So if I click on create, this is going to be if you actually had other users, let's say some other team members or something, it would go ahead and charge $21 per user. Obviously, we don't want to do that. So that's going to be something that we go ahead and for right now, we're going to ignore. Then from right over here, we're going to go ahead and activate Gmail. So we're going to go ahead and click on activate. Okay. And it's going to say, cool, are all existing theyassine.com email addresses added? Okay. Is now the best time to update your email settings? After you activate Gmail, updates can take 48 hours, right? So in the meantime, you'll still get email addresses at your old email client. So in this case, because this is a brand new, we don't have an email client, it's okay for us to go ahead and proceed. But if you are in an exception situation or, some of this may apply to you, then obviously you want to be careful with this, right? So we go ahead and click on, I'm ready to activate Gmail. And again, it's going to do, the reason why we went ahead and set up the system and strategy for you this way, in this specific way, is so that way you do not have to worry about having to log in and change DNS settings. We try to make it as simple as possible for you. So what you do is you click on sign in to activate. Again, why did we recommend Cloudflare? You see, there was a method to this madness. I don't think a lot of people understand that there are gurus out there, but just because a guru got an outcome doesn't mean that they're good at educating others to get that same outcome, right? And so the reason why when we create this entire system and the strategy, it wasn't random that we recommended Cloudflare, because Cloudflare has amazing integrations with all the other providers. So that way they allow this one click. You see, just like this, one click, we're able to go ahead and very easily add all of the DNS settings. Otherwise, you'd have to manually go into the DNS settings and do this yourself, which is a very, very big pain. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and once again authorize Google to do this. Now, if you do see this is because I had some other settings in this test domain, because we use this test domain for a lot of stuff. Now, normally you shouldn't see this. Okay. So if you do see this, then that's going to be something that you want to go ahead and reach out to the community, because there is some additional steps if you have any errors with this. So give me just a second. I'm going to go ahead and clear these errors out, because we use this domain as a test. And that's the reason why we have some additional DNS settings that are conflicting with these other DNS settings. So we got to go ahead and clean this up. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and cleared those out of our backend here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and click on sign in to activate. And then it should go ahead and not give me that error any longer, because I went ahead and cleaned that. So yep, exactly. Now it does allow me to authorize. Again, you shouldn't see that. If you do run into any issues, make sure you do reach out in the community, but we're going to go ahead and click on authorize from there. And you're going to see that it says there was an error. Okay, so let's refresh here for just a second. And let's see, it says there was an error. I'm going to go ahead and sign in once again and see what it does for us here. Okay, so right over here, it looks like it is duplicating this over here. Again, it doesn't look like this is an issue, because it should be fine. I'm going to hit authorize, and it's going to say that cool, confirmation deletion. Now, again, you may not have these issues. Okay, so again, I'm running into these issues because we use this domain for other things, but I'm going to go ahead and delete conflicts, and then hopefully this time around it should work, which I think it is. There we go. Beautiful. So we're good to go with that. And now what's going to happen is that from here, I can actually go ahead, and if I hit these dots over here, I can go ahead and click on Gmail. Okay, so in this case, what it did is that when I went over to Gmail, it actually logged me into my personal @Gmail, right? So in this case, what you can do, and we're going to walk you through how to go ahead and set up Google Chrome profiles, because Google Chrome profiles are going to allow you to be able to go ahead and have multiple Google Chrome profiles. So I would recommend not doing it this way, but you can do it this way as well. You could go like on add account there, and then you could go ahead and log in. You go, support at, in my case, the domain name is going to be like this. And then you enter in your password, you hit next, and then it is actually going to go ahead and see, it's going to say continue in a new Chrome profile. This is going to create your browsing from, a separate one. Now, again, if you want to go ahead and create that right now, you can, but we are going to walk you through an entire separate kind of tutorial on how all of these Chrome profiles work. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and click on no thanks. And you'll see that right now I have both my personal and the @domain here in the exact same Chrome profile. Now, this is actually probably not the best recommended way. Again, we're going to walk you through the Google Chrome profiles later on. But the big thing that I want to go ahead and close out here is because I did say that we need to downgrade your account so that way it doesn't charge you $21 per month. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so what you're going to do, if you exited this screen out, you're going to go over to admin.google.com. Okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go to admin.google.com. And then once you go to admin.google.com, it's going to say, hey, go ahead and log in. Now, you want to make sure you're logging in not from your normal @Gmail. If that is what's showing up, you got to make sure that you're logging in from your domain email. Okay. So then you're going to go ahead and enter in the password for your domain email. You're going to go ahead and click on next. Okay, it's going to go ahead and get you logged into the admin. You see on here, Body Forge Wellness. This is the entire kind of behind the scenes admin portal. Let me go ahead and expand this for you a little bit more here. Okay, then what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to go ahead and click on billing on the left side. So you see right there, says billing right there. Let me go ahead and highlight it for you right here. So billing, you're going to go ahead and click on billing. And then this is how you're going to downgrade. So that way you can get around Google's upsell on you here. Okay, so you go to subscriptions right here. And then you'll see that it says Google Workspace Business Plus, right? Paid service starts in 13 days. So we're going to click on this right over here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on upgrade or downgrade. This is very important, okay? Because unless you want to pay $21 a month. Now there is some additional benefit. You get some additional space, space, storage, all that kind of stuff. But we don't care about that right now because we're just starting out in business. We want to get the starter plan. So we're going to go ahead and click on upgrade or downgrade. And then from there, it's going to go ahead and give us the option, right? It's going to give us the option right over here. You'll see that it went ahead and actually upsold us, I think, almost to the most expensive one, right? Almost to the most expensive ones, right? So right now we're on the Business Plus. The one that we want to be on, which it didn't give us the option to sign up for from the very beginning, is going to be the Business Starter Plan, okay? So we're going to go ahead and actually click on downgrade. And then once we click on downgrade, it's going to go ahead and kind of give us a warning like, hey, you're downgrading from Business Plus to Business Starter. It says, hey, you're going to go down from 5 terabytes of storage to 30 gigabytes per user. It's going to tell you like, hey, you don't get access to some of these features. All of that is perfectly fine because right now where you are at, the starter plan is going to be more than enough if you're going down this route. So you then go to next, okay? And then it does give you the option here to do the annual plan that's going to take it down to $6 per user per month, or the flexible plan, which is going to be the $7.20 per user per month if you want to go month by month, right? So the $6 is going to be for the annual. Now, this is totally up to you how you want to do it. I will be honest with you, you can always come back and do the annual plan. The way that I have always done it is that in the beginning, I do not do annual plans. This is what I do. I start off with the flexible plan. This is the way that we've always done it in our companies, okay? We start off with the month by month. And then what we kind of just do is we kind of build that momentum. So, if you pay for month by month for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then once you're like, you know what, I'm 3 months in, I'm using this securely, I'm starting to make money. And remember, our entire philosophy is that we want to make sure that this is as lean as possible for you, right? And so our recommendation, otherwise you're going to have to pay 6 times, 12, you're going to end up paying a whole bunch more money, right? $60 plus, right? $72. Instead of doing that, we would recommend start off with the month by month and then just put a reminder somewhere, right? You can put a reminder anywhere on your phone or whatever. And then let's say 3 months from now, you're like, for sure, I'm going to be keeping this domain. I'm going to be keeping this username. I'm going to be keeping everything like that. Then you can always come back and upgrade to the annual. Again, that's just our opinion. You're more than welcome to do whatever you want. You might have your own strategy. We're just educating you on the things that we have done. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the checkout from there. And then from there, it's going to go ahead and say, cool, do you want to go ahead and place your order? Now, in my case, I'm not going to proceed because this is just a test. I don't want to go ahead and start getting billed for $7.20 per user. But in your case, you are going to go ahead and place the order. And then it might go ahead and ask you to confirm your card information and all that kind of stuff. And once you've done that, you may go ahead and get charged immediately $7.20 because of the fact that I think when you downgrade from a trial of the more expensive plan, it basically like negates your trial. So Google is naughty like this, right? So they want to make sure that they're upselling you in this way. So it's okay. It's $7.20 per month, but that is the cost of now having your entire Google Workspace business starter plan up and going. And then the beautiful thing is that you have your own inbox. You'll see on here, this is the actual inbox for the support. So you'll see support@theyasin.com. So there was a little bit extra setup that we had to go through, right? So we talked about over here where there's a little bit extra setup and there is a cost. So instead of $6 per month, it's $7.20 per month. But there's a little bit extra cost, a little bit more initial setup, but that's it. You're good pretty much for the entire career of your business career. And so that's the beautiful thing about getting this set up properly. So does that make sense? Make sure you do not forget to go ahead and place order and check out. And then that's going to be it. You're pretty much done with the @domain.com. You can go ahead and start sending yourself an email at support@whatever your domain name is. And you can test because you're set up the way that I walked you through with the Cloudflare integrations and the authorizations and the DNS settings. That should have taken care of all of the email and the DNS settings and the domain settings and all of that. If you do, of course, run into any issues, make sure that you do reach out to the community. And that's a really quick reminder for that as well, right? Please be resourceful. Please flex your resourceful muscles because a lot of what we have learned through this, yes, is through trial and error, but a lot of it is also through YouTube and Googling, right? So if you can't actually figure this out, and if it's, let's say something changed, or, these software companies change their UI all the time, like go out there and I'm sure there's a amazing YouTube video that's going to walk you through, hey, how do I sign up for a Google Workspace starter account, right? It's going to have videos about that. Obviously, we've created our own to be able to facilitate this for you. But the other thing is to remember, hey, this is a community. And so what we are doing is we're planting the seeds of what has worked for us. What have we learned? What we have learned from other community members, what we've learned from other people who are in the community who had best practices that we learned from them, right? And so whenever you learn something, if you learn like, hey, maybe in this training, maybe this wasn't the most best way to do it. Maybe there's a better way to do it. If you learn something, share it. And if you're struggling, share that as well, because there's going to be people who figure this out who are going to be able to help you, because this is no guru on the mountain. This is a community. Make sure you give as you are asking, because it is that cycle, that virtuous cycle there, right? So make sure that you are tapping into the community, that you are sharing, and we are learning together. So if you do run into any issues, make sure you go ahead and post in the community. If you don't run into any issues and you figured this out, make sure you go into the community and help others with things that you have already figured out as well. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the entire step-by-step for option number 1, which is getting your @domain.com set up. Congratulations. We walked through it step by step. I literally did the entire thing with you throughout this training section. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is next up, we're going to talk to you about how to set up Google Chrome profiles. So make sure you go ahead and check that next step out. But congratulations, you made it through it. We will catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to this step-by-step tutorial for option number 2, which is setting up an @Gmail. So we're going to go ahead and walk you through. If you're going through this training, that means that you have decided that you are going to proceed with option number 2. So you're going to go ahead and actually set up a Gmail account for your business. Remember, we've already gone ahead and explained what the difference between the options are. At this point, you should know which option you're going to go ahead and choose. So I'm not going to go through all of that again. So if you are in this training, that means you have decided not to proceed with option 1, and we are going to go ahead and walk you through setting up option 2. Now, if you decide to set up option 1 and you already set up option 1, obviously you're not going to do this. You're not going to do both option 1 and option 2. That's why they're options, right? So I hope that is obvious, okay? So we're going to go ahead and proceed with getting your @Gmail set up, okay, for your business. And what's going to happen is that it's going to be free. It's going to be simple and easy to set up, but I want you to make sure that you acknowledge that that does mean that there's going to be a little bit more setup later on when it comes to sending business emails, because we explained that, right? So yeah, the email providers do not like it when you're sending business emails through an @Gmail. And so what we're going to do is later on, we're going to go ahead and walk you through how to set up something called email rerouting and email forwarding. So that way you can actually go ahead and have this set up properly, okay? Versus if you actually decided you were going to proceed with option 1 would give you a business email off the bat. So you would have no need for that additional setup later on. And so, but again, the con of this one is that there's an additional cost, right? So the con of this other one that we're doing here is that yes, it's free, but there's additional setup and you don't get all of the business tools that you would get with a Google Workspace account. The pro of this one is that it's easy setup. The con is that it costs a little bit of money, right? So again, when we get to that training in the future, there's a little bit more setup for this one. Not a lot, a little bit more, and we'll walk you through that when we get there. Beautiful. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the actual step-by-step tutorial of creating your @Gmail email for your business. All right, so this is the cool part. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go over to google.com, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through this entire process as if you are within one existing Chrome profile, okay? But in the next step, we're going to walk you through Chrome profile. It's going to make a little bit more sense. But right now, I'm just going to walk you through how it's going to look as if you are in the same Chrome profile. If that doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and wherever you are on google.com or whatever, you're going to go ahead and if you already are logged into a Google account, you're going to click on that icon, you're going to click on add account. If you're not, all you're going to do is you're just going to go over to create Google account, right? And then you create a Google account right there. It's the first link. You're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and create a Google account to manage a business. And here we go. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, shows you that the system and the strategy that we have been teaching you is in alignment with the actual way that these software companies and Google and these bigger companies actually function. Because you'll see on here, it says, choose the email that is best for your business. Guess what? Option 1, free for 14 days and then monthly charge after trial, but you get a custom email and productivity features for your business, right? Guess what? That was option 1. And then option 2, which is the one that we're going through right now, which is at no cost. You get a Gmail address that is just for you, okay? And so you'll see on here, you get a professional email when you go with this route. But again, we've already gone ahead and talked about the cons of that, right? So this table that we've gone ahead and created right over here is pretty much the exact same table that Google is presenting you over here, right? So again, we are educators. We've been in this game for a long time. We've had hundreds and thousands of students go through our programs. And so that's the reason why we understand how to be able to teach this to you in a way that is strategic and in a way that is an actual system, okay? So in this case, what we're going to do is because you are proceeding with option 2, we're going to go ahead and click on get a Gmail address. Now, once you click on get a Gmail address, it's going to walk you through the entire process, right? So I'm going to go ahead and this is just an example. You're going to put your name and email address. From this, it's going to ask you for your birthday. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to put a random kind of birthday on here, right? But again, in your case, obviously don't put a random birthday, right? We're going to go ahead and click on next from there. From there, it's going to ask us, hey, what is the username that we want to actually create here? Now, remember, you can't have support@gmail.com. Obviously, that's not going to work. That's not going to exist because this has to be your business email. And unfortunately, you've chosen option 2. So you're not going to have this on your actual business email, right? So what you got to do is you might decide to call this, let's say, Body Forge Support or something like that, right? Let's say the name of your company was NutriFit Wellness, right? So it'd be NutriFit Support, right? And now here's the thing. Sometimes you're going to find it. Sometimes you're not going to find it. In this case, you'll see it wasn't available. Now, for the purposes of business, I would recommend staying away from adding numbers and all that kind of stuff inside of the email address. And so I would just play around with the words. So if you want to go support NutriFit, maybe, let's say, for example, maybe that one is available. You see in that case, that one is not available either. Another one that I could try here might be NutriFit Team, right? So if I go NutriFit, let me, if I can get the spelling right here, NutriFit Team. If I could try that, let's see if that works here. So NutriFit Team did not work either. I could try to flip it. So let's say, for example, I wanted to go the opposite way. I wanted to go to, let's say, Team NutriFit, and I go next from that. Now, see, this is the reason why sometimes the professional email is helpful, is because of the fact that how many people do you think have an @Gmail domain email? Like, I think at the point it's hundreds of millions of people. And so you might end up having to try and figure out which username is available versus if you do pay a little bit of money extra. And again, remember, that's not going to be your only business expenses, other business expenses that you got to make sure that you're allocating for, because there are other tools that you're going to need to run your business as well. But that's one of the reasons why is another pro to have it on your domain, because then you can just have straight up support at your domain and it's very easy. So you got to play around with this a little bit and see what is going to be the one that's available. Obviously, if I go like the full on NutriFit Wellness support, I think this one is probably going to be available. Oh, wow. Look at that. That's not even allowed either. So I had to play around with it a little bit. I did find that NutriFit Wellness Team was available. So again, you're going to have to play around with whatever you think might be the most professional, but just knowing that this is just kind of like the starter one for you to get started with, because long term, as you grow your business, you're not going to have this at Gmail, right? But it is good for when you get started, you're just kind of getting the ball rolling. Then, you got to figure out what's going to be the most professional for you. In this case, I found NutriFit Wellness Team. I'm going to go ahead and create that. So obviously it's going to be taken for anybody who wants to create this, but for you guys to be able to align this with your brand name. And that's the reason why we methodically had you do this in this exact order with finding your brand name earlier, right? So in this case, we're going to go over to next. From there, it's going to go ahead and ask you to go ahead and set up your password. So you're going to go ahead and set up your password, whatever that's going to be, okay? Then you're going to click on next from there. And then it's going to go ahead and actually verify your phone number, just so that way it makes sure that you are not a robot. So I'm going to go ahead and do that very quickly. And then I'll go ahead and see you on the next screen here. Now, in my case, it looks like I am out of luck here, because as I'm recording this, we've basically used the phone number that I use to set up test accounts and demo accounts. We've used it too many times. And so what we're going to have to do is I'm going to go ahead and have to go out and find either a spouse or a family member to go ahead and help me with this verification. But the point being is that once you get to and through this verification, you go to next. And then once you're there, you're going to basically have your account created. And it's going to function just like a normal Google account, Gmail account is going to work. So you can go ahead and log in accordingly. Now, as we go through this process, of course, on YouTube, there's going to be more tutorials if you needed them to be able to walk you through this. Because the key is that if something is not exactly the way that we've shown it inside of this training, well, guess what? You can be resourceful and you can actually go out there and, I'm sure there's some amazing high quality production videos that are out there in terms of how to actually create a Google account or how to create a Gmail account, right? And obviously, this is a community. So if you do find that you are struggling with something, make sure you do reach out. I know I unfortunately wasn't able to go ahead and proceed past this part for this specific training, but this is very, very, very basic ABCs of how to be able to run a computer, which is how to set up a Google account or a Gmail account. So you should be able to just go ahead and enter in your phone number and then click next, and then that's pretty much it. You're good to go, and then you can just log in to your Gmail account. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the actual step-by-step of option number 2, which is setting up your professional business email account, but going with option 2, which is having the @gmail.com account. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is, next step, we're going to walk you through how to set up Google Chrome profiles. So that way you can make sure that you're keeping everything nice and organized between your personal life and your work life. So with that being said, we will catch you in the next training. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this step. And this is going to be a very, very important step, which is setting up your Google Chrome profiles. Now, stick with us here, because for a lot of people who are new business owners or even just new to this entire world, it can be extremely confusing for them. And for some people, it can be kind of like overwhelming. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and break this down for you, so that way you can understand exactly how this is going to work and you can be successful with this. So let me expand this a little bit so you can actually read this a little bit better, as well as obviously the guide is going to be available for you if you are a member or a student of this program. So that way you can understand exactly what a Google Chrome profile is, very, very specifically, and then we can actually walk you through how to set it up. So a Google Chrome profile is like having your own office set up on the internet, right? So what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to customize when you create a Google Chrome profile inside of the Google Chrome browser. You can customize what you see. You can kind of have like multiple rooms all within for all of your different Google accounts, right? Now, the beautiful thing about this setup is that when you're traveling somewhere, and let's say, for example, you need to actually get access to your Office, right? Like your bookmarks, you want to get access to. And when I say your Office, we're talking about on your Chrome profile, you're going to have, hey, like I want to see my bookmarks set up in a certain way. I want to see my Chrome extension set up in a certain way, right? How do I save all of those settings? The answer to that is going to be via your Chrome profile. And so when you have different Google Chrome profiles, depending on if it's for business or for personal, that's usually what we recommend. And I'll show you how to actually get this set up in just a second. And so that way, when you're on your work profile, you have all of your bookmarks, you have all of your passwords, you have everything set up that is for work related, okay? And then for the personal Chrome profile, you have, your bills to pay, you have your social media logins and all of that, but that is on a separate profile, all within the same Chrome browser. So, hey, let's say, for example, you got kids that are homeschooling, right? And you got to have certain sites to help your kids go through homeschooling. Well, you can even create a whole Chrome profile for that, like for your kids as well, right? So you can have not only 2, but you can have 3, 4, 5 Chrome profiles depending on the type of maybe Google account you have or the use case that you have. But the biggest benefit is just allows you to be organized according to the responsibilities that you have. And so that way nothing gets mixed up and you can just focus on what your work that you need to focus on in that specific Chrome profile. Okay, so let me go ahead and explain to you how all of this works, okay? So we have Google Chrome, which is the browser. Now, the Google Chrome browser is going to be the application that is downloaded on your computer. Now, obviously, if you don't have Google Chrome and you're not using Google Chrome right now, go out there and download Google Chrome if you haven't done that already. Okay, that's going to be very important because everything we do is based off of Google Chrome. Okay, so let me show you this right here, what we're looking at right here, right? So you'll see on here, obviously I'm on a Mac, you might be on a Windows, it just depends on what kind of computer you're on. But this screen that you see right over here, this is the actual browser screen, right? So this is the actual Google Chrome browser that allows me to access the internet, okay? So you have your browser, and then what happens is that within your browser, you're going to be able to have, you'll see on here, Chrome Profile 1, Chrome Profile 2, right? So that's in the red over there. Now, let me show you exactly where these profiles are going to be located. So it gets kind of confusing sometimes because you'll see that you have 2 letters over here, right? This letter, and then you have this letter, right? So the actual Chrome profiles are not going to be living in this letter here. They're going to be in the actual letter or the actual, it's not always a letter. Sometimes it is an image, sometimes an animal, whatever you select, because you can actually change your Chrome profile picture. But the point being is going to be the top one right over here, okay? So when you go ahead and click on that right there, you're going to see this box, and this box is going to show you like, hey, you're logged in right now as this account, and it's going to show you some of your other profiles over here as well, right? And so what you can do, and we're going to walk you through the step-by-step of this, you'll see you can have a personal profile, you can have a work profile. If I go ahead and click on add, you'll see that it walks me through the entire setup of adding a new Chrome profile, so I can actually sign in with a new Google account, and it'll add that as another profile on there. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about the actual red here, right? That's the actual Chrome profiles. Now, this is where it can kind of get confusing, is because right over here, when I click on the other letter right here, right? So the letter that's over here, and this letter is going to show up whenever, let's say, for example, you're in Gmail or something, right? Let's go over to Gmail and let me show you what I'm talking about, right? So showing over here in Gmail, if I go over to docs, docs.new, you'll see that's going to show up right over here. It's going to create a new Google Doc for me, and it's going to show up right over here as well. So it's always going to be like this, where you have your Chrome profile icon, and then you have your Google account icon here, okay? Now, inside of your Chrome profile, remember, right here, I'm in the Adam Sharif or the John Doe, whatever. This is just a test profile that we have. So I'm in this profile here. But then this is where it gets confusing, is you can actually then have multiple accounts even within the actual same Chrome profile. So you'll see it allows me to add an account. So therefore, what it allows me to do, it allows me to have Google account 1 and Google account 2 within the same Chrome profile, okay? Now, this is where there's a little bit of a science, a little bit of a art, a little bit of a system, a little bit of a strategy here. And the reason why we're going to recommend to you to actually just have one Chrome profile for work and one Chrome profile for personal. And we would recommend not having multiple Google accounts within the same Chrome profile, right? So that way you keep it nice and clean, where you only have one Google account per Chrome profile generally. Now, even myself, I'll be honest, there are some cases, if you know what you're doing and you understand how to set this up properly, where the strategy of actually having 2 Google accounts within the same Chrome profile makes sense. Again, that's completely up to you if you want to set it up that way. Again, this is just a strategy. We're just opening your eyes, planting the seeds of how all of this works. But if you were going to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to add an additional Google account within the same Chrome profile, you would do that by clicking on the icon that is the actual icon within the actual window, versus the one that's in the browser, which is the top one here. This is the one that allows you to switch between profiles profiles. And then this one is the one that allows you to switch between Google accounts within the same profile. Does that make sense? I hope that's not too complicated. We went ahead and created this diagram to explain it a little bit more for you. But our recommendation is in the beginning, unless you know what you're doing, keep it super simple. You just have one Chrome profile for work and one Chrome profile for personal. Have your work business email, which is either option 1 or option 2, your @domain.com or your @gmail.com, whichever one you set up. Have that be your main Google account. Let's say, for example, your work one, right? Do not have a second one here. And then you have your personal, and you're not gonna have a second one here. This is gonna be, let's say, your work one, right? So your work, your business email. And then this is gonna be your personal email. So that way it's nice and separate, it's nice and organized. Now, with that being said, let's go and walk you through the exact step-by-step on how to actually create a Google Chrome profile. Okay, so again, what you're gonna do is this Chrome profile that we're gonna walk you through, we would recommend setting it up for your business. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna click on the icon that is above there, okay? You then go ahead and click on add, and this is gonna walk you through the exact step-by-step of actually creating a new Chrome profile. You're gonna go ahead and click on sign in. And then when you click on sign in, it's going to walk you through the entire sign in process. Now, what you're going to do in this sign in process is you are going to go and decide if you're making this for your personal or you're making this for your business. If it's for your business, you're going to go ahead and actually log in here with your business email, okay? Whatever your business email is, if whether you decided to go the @domain route or you went with the @gmail route, you're gonna go ahead and sign in there and you're gonna proceed. And what it's gonna do, and let me X this out, you're not gonna X this out, you're gonna proceed. I'm just gonna go ahead and X out for the sake of the example here, is that what's gonna happen is you're gonna show up, once you go through that entire process, you're gonna have an additional profile that's gonna show up when you click on the icon that is above there, okay? Now, I'm gonna go ahead and click on this cog icon so you can see what's happening here, is that you'll see that I have multiple different profiles in here, right? Now, in my case, I have show on startup turned off because it's kind of annoying for this to show up on startup every single time. It's up to you if you want this to show up, so you can actually select like, hey, I want to go to my personal profile right now. I want to go to my work profile right now. I want to go to my, in this case, you're not going to have a demo profile, but imagine it's like, hey, I want to go to my kids' homeschooling profile right now. So this is what's going to allow you to be able to switch between all of them. And then the cool thing is that whatever profile you are logged into, it's automatically going to have all of your Gmail, your Google Calendar, like your bookmarks, everything is going to be loaded up into the actual profile that you have already loaded. Now, with that being said, in the actual guide for this training, we do have some additional kind of process that you can go through and look at this, right? So it walks you through like, hey, you can click on the plus button, you can sign in, you can switch between different profiles, you can switch between once you're inside of the browser. All of that is documented inside of the actual guide for this training section, but most of it I've already gone ahead and walked you through, but it is there available for your reference if you need it. And if you're still confused on anything that we said, because I know initially if you're not used to this, if you don't understand how this works, this is your first exposure to Google Chrome profiles and organizing all of this, it's very important. But if you got confused, I want to go ahead and remind you, please be resourceful. There are some amazing YouTube videos that are out there that are going to walk you through. Like, just go ahead and type into YouTube, right? Type into YouTube and just type in Google Chrome profiles explained, or go ahead and type in Google Chrome profiles setup, or how to set up Google Chrome profiles, right? If you type that in, I promise you're going to find some amazing resources with high production quality that will explain it to you in 1,002 different ways. And then on top of that, remember, this is a community. And so if this was easy for you to set up, if this is like, oh man, this is kind of basic ABCs, well, hey, there's other people who are in this journey who are going to be better at things than you are. And for them, this wasn't ABC, but something else is ABC that you're going to need help with. And so that's the reason why we say that there's no guru on the mountain. We are just walking you through and teaching you the things that we have learned from our own experiences, as well as learned from other peers in the community. And so we're all supporting each other on this mountain over here. And so as you give, as you ask, you have to make sure that you give as well. Okay. So this is a community. Make sure that you are going ahead and sharing with other people and helping other people throughout this process. So if you do get confused, make sure you first try and be resourceful, and then also ask in the community. And then whatever you learn, let's say you learned something new, go ahead and share that in the community. Or if maybe this wasn't the best way, whatever we talked about here, if you do have some feedback on how we can adjust these trainings to make them even more relevant. If you find like, you know what, Yasin, I know how to do this, and this wasn't the best way that you could have explained it, I would have done it this way, it's a little bit better. Go ahead and share that in the community. That's going to be very helpful, not only for us, but also making sure that that's helpful for the other new business owners and students in the program. Okay, so with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the step-by-step tutorial on what is a Google Chrome profile, how to set up Google Chrome profiles, how to log into Google Chrome profiles, as well as walking you through how it actually works with Google Chrome profiles and multiple Google accounts. Within that, go out there, set it up, make sure you have it. This is very important. Make sure you have this because we're going to be relying on this, and you're going to basically start doing doing all of your work, what's going to be setting up your website, your corporation, your link tree, your all of this stuff, your business email sending options, all of that, your business platform is going to happen within your Google Chrome profile that you have created for work going forward. Okay, so this is very important. Make sure that you actually go ahead and set this up properly, so that way we can go ahead and piggyback off of this for the rest of the entire course. We will catch you in the next training.